hold on. We'll just let it run through for a second because I messed up somewhere. So I'll just edit this off. Stupid roadcaster. Oh man. The intro takes a long time. I'm going to restart it. I didn't turn on the button for the intro, and I'm just letting it run through. Sorry, I'm being a little unprofessional today.
That's all good. I've got a delay and some, I don't know, weirdness in terms of the internet happening on my end. I don't know if that's happening on your end or not.
Not at all. All right, you ready? Let's try it again. Let's see if it goes. Howdy, everybody. My name is JR Sparrow, host of West Virginia Uncommonplace interviews and sessions, and I'm back. It's really cold. I went from New Jersey. Actually, I was in Philadelphia to the Poconos, which people think I'm on vacation, but we all know it's always for work. And I'm telling you, the chill factor today, it was 13 degrees, but it felt like -2. Now, in life, we have certain exercises, certain things we do in life, and these things provide us with a certain performance level. And in having a performance level, your performance level has a certain risk to it. And when your performance level has a certain risk to it, it could be something that could be of high stakes, sort of like if you go to the casino, high stakes out there, or or it could be a different high stakes that involve stress and pressure. And in high stakes situations, a lot of people have these times where they just misconstrue ideas, misconstrue a lot of things. And we have someone with us today. His name is Brian. And I didn't do Brian's last name justice because y'all know I chop everybody's last names up. It's Hite. I wanted to say hit, but I know it's not hit.
No, it's just like it's spelled. It's height.
It's height.
H-I-T-E, height.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't know why I wanted to go hit with that, but height. All right, so
Yep.
I've got Brian here with me, and he's going to answer the nostalgic question of who he is. So, Brian, please take the floor, and thank you for coming on the show.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, high stakes situations and they are something that it's been a part of my life for a really long time, and I really enjoy talking about it. So I appreciate you having me on the show. Me, I've only recently figured out how to bring well, at least most of the different parts of me into what it is that I do on a daily basis. So the organization that I own, Brian Height Global, we do we work with high stakes environment populations, people who work in high stakes environments. We work with first responders. We work with athletes, performers, meaning musicians, actors, etc. We work with educators. We work with with corporate people and various organizations at different levels there. And all of that really stemmed from two things. One was a sports psychology background. I have a master's degree in sports psychology and a PhD in organizational psychology, and 30 years as a stuntman. When I was 20 years old, I started doing stunts. When I was about 27-ish, I decided to go back to college again to finish the degree that I did not finish the first time around. And those two things really lived in different paths within my life for a long time. I would be a full-time stuntman, and then I would go, I worked for the Army as a performance psychology consultant. I did that for 10 years. And so I just kind of bounced back and forth between those two worlds. But here recently, I've been able to really make some good connections with people and have some good discussions and figure out how to bring what I've learned from the 30 years of stunts and the 15 years of sport performance, organizational psychology together in a way that can be beneficial for those populations of people who really, on a daily basis are dealing with consequences that really do matter.
Okay, now I've got a question for you. Working with elite military personnel, athletes, and first responders, what separates those who thrive under pressure from those who crumble under pressure?
Yeah, well, let's start with the premise. I don't accept that there is by definition pressure. That's one of the things that I challenge. I don't think that there are such things as pressure situations. I don't think that people should perform under pressure. I think that pressure is something that we create in our minds. Pressure exists in the mind, not in the moment. It exists in how we perceive situations and where our attention is at any given moment. That's what generates and creates pressure. And when we're experiencing pressure, what it should be a red flag for is that our attention is in the wrong place and we're thinking about the situation in the wrong way, and therefore we're not capable of performing as well as we possibly could. And you know what? This isn't a new argument. This is something that goes back at least 2000 years to Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, talking about it's not events that disturb us, it's how we think about those events, it's how we experience those events, the meaning that we assign to those events. That's what it is that disturbs us. So the situations that first responders, military personnel, I mean, truly anybody who finds themselves in a situation where the consequences are important, those situations are not by definition pressure situations. Now, we may experience pressure in them, and we may have been told throughout our lives that they are pressure situations, that we're supposed to experience pressure. Well, again, I mean, I'm here after 3 decades truly of standing in front of cars, falling downstairs, being lit on fire, sometimes all that at the same time. I did one show, I got lit on fire and hit by a car simultaneously.
Oh, snap.
So, but those, so having been through those situations and having been out in the field with the U.S. Army on multiple occasions, I can tell you that the same situation does not generate pressure in everybody. And even people who are experiencing pressure in those situations aren't experiencing it to the same degree. And even if they are experiencing it to the same degree, what's underlying that pressure, what's driving that pressure, like how they are thinking about that situation is likely to be different as well. So it's not the situation itself that will determine whether we experience pressure or not. It's how we think about that situation.
Okay, okay, I like that. Now let me ask you this. You talk about seeing visions of stress. Can you tell us about like something really deep?
Can you repeat that? Like I said, the delay that's happening on my end. I didn't.
Um, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about high pressure situations? Because you talk about the illusions of stress. Tell us about this illusion of stress.
Yeah, well, it's an illusion of pressure, like we were talking about, that there is, and I think about pressure as an illusion, like the illusion. Most people have seen this one, where you look at the picture, and if you look at it one way, it looks like an old lady with a big nose and a bonnet thing on her head, and if you look at it a different way, it's a young lady who's dressed up like she's about to go out somewhere. And the thing that's interesting about it is that when we look at that picture, nothing changes. No new lines are being drawn. No lines are changing from one place to another. It's the same thing. But if we change our perception and how we focus and what we focus on, we see an old lady in one situation. We change it again. We see a young lady. That's how I believe that pressure operates. When we look at a situation as a threat, meaning something bad might happen to us, and the bad that we're focusing on are the potential consequences of doing well or not. I mean, truly, pressure can come either way. If my focus is on, man, if I get this right, my life is, my check's cashed. I'm gonna be on the fast track for everything. That creates as much pressure as, man, if I screw this up, they're gonna fire me. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills. Each one creates pressure. So, but that's if we look at the situation in that way. Now, if we change our perspective, identical situation, This isn't a threat. This is an opportunity. This is a chance for me to demonstrate my skills, to show what I'm capable of, for me to challenge myself and the knowledge that I've gained and my ability to communicate it, if it's a presentation, for example. So and that's the situation again is not different. It's how we're thinking about that situation. It's where our attention is going. And if our attention is instead of being on the consequences, on those things in the moment, right now, that I can do to create conditions for success, pressure goes away. And this is something that's not even controversial. I mean, anybody who's ever experienced anything approaching the zone or flow or any of those moments where we're just completely engaged in what's going on. There are no distractions. There isn't an outside world. All that exists are the task relevant things in front of us. And most of us have been in that situation. Maybe it was cooking dinner, could have been helping your kid with homework or writing a paper. It doesn't matter. We've been in that place. And when we're in that place where we are 100% present, engaged, and task focused, pressure and stress disappear. They're not there. We don't experience them. So that's the illusion that I'm talking about.
Okay, and you've developed a framework, the FACTS framework for mastering high stakes performance, correct?
Yeah, the facts acronym stands for focus, arousal, confidence, and tenacity. And these are some of the things that when we're in these high stakes moments, and that's what I call them. I don't call them high pressure situations or high stress. They're high stakes. The stakes are high. The consequences matter. They are important. And so and that's subjective, I mean, again, the situation, what you might find high stakes, I don't find high stakes. So there's still some subjectivity there. But for whatever reason, we find the consequences are important in these moments for us. We're very clear about that. We want this to go well. It is important to us to go well. Okay, great. Well, in that situation, you can perform to the best of your abilities. You can create conditions physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially that allow you to perform to your potential. Or you can put your attention in the wrong spots. You can experience thoughts and emotions that are counterproductive, in which case you're going to find yourself not performing as well as you could. And so the things that help stabilize us, that help us in those high stakes moments, are our focus. Where is our attention? Is it on the future, on those imagined consequences? Because they are still imagined, it's the future. It's not real yet. Or is our attention in the present moment on those task relevant things that I need to do? Or even productive thoughts that I need to maintain in my mind? Where's my focus? Where's my attention? So that's critical. Arousal refers to our level of pumped upness. And for any given task, whatever the performance might be, there is a right amount of pumped upness for us in that moment. That's arousal. And this is where some people get the whole idea that, well, we need pressure and stress. They get me motivated. They get me pumped. They get me ready. They give me the energy. Okay, well, I think what's happening is yes, when we perceive a threat, which is part of both pressure and stress, when we believe that we don't have the resources to deal with it, stress, or our attention, like the threat that we're perceiving is coming from the consequences themselves, meaning our attention's in that future state, those things can trigger the sympathetic nervous system because I'm perceiving a threat. There's something I'm perceiving is wrong. And when the sympathetic nervous system is triggered, our heart rate increases, our breathing escalates, the sweating starts happening, muscle tension changes. These are all predictable and normal things when the sympathetic nervous system activates. That's part of arousal. That physiological change gives us that energy boost. And if we interpret it as an energy boost, as our body's preparing us to get going, and we're capable of managing it and regulating it, this arousal level, well, then we're set. We're good. But if we attribute it to stress or to pressure, like this is how we feel, this is what's going on, this is what the whole thing is, and the arousal is being controlled by that perception, now my mind's in the wrong place and my body is starting to go out of control as well. So being able to recognize arousal for what it is and manage it is critical. Confidence is just the ability, I believe I'm capable of doing this successfully. If I believe I'm capable of doing it successfully, I will be much less stressed for sure, because part of stress is the perception that I don't have the resources to be able to deal with it effectively. So if I think I can, that automatically lowers levels of stress. And the confidence in the ability to achieve what I've set out to achieve kind of takes some of the it doesn't change the value or the importance of the consequence, but it changes the risk that we perceive associated with the consequences. Meaning, if I go into a performance and the consequences really matter to me, and I think there's a 50-50 shot that I'm not going to do what I need to in order for the consequences to go well, that's where I can start to experience a lot of pressure. But if I think there's maybe a, 90% chance of me getting it right, 10% chance of me getting it wrong, then, the consequences haven't changed. They're still valuable to me, but I'm not going to experience as much pressure because I believe in my ability to do what I've set out to do. And then the last one's just tenacity, perseverance, stick to itness, motivation, pushing away burnout, not pushing away burnout, but just creating conditions around yourself that allow for burnout to just not be a thing. So understanding those things, focus, arousal, confidence, and tenacity go a long way toward creating conditions where we're able to perform our best in those high stakes moments.
So my next question for you is, what happens when that threat becomes a fear? Because I've known even growing up, like as a kid, I'm still semi afraid of dogs, certain types of dogs. Other dogs, I mean, I have a dog now, but what I'm saying is like when I was a kid, that threat was a fear. It was something that was debilitating. So I would take the long way past the dog, or I would run away. Like, how do you help someone that has taken that fear? I mean, that threat at first, and it's manipulated to way into a fear. How do you help them cope with that? And
Well,
what is
yeah, anybody experiencing a threat is experiencing fear. I mean, that's what a fear is. So this is something that excuse me, I think is important to distinguish. Nervousness and anxiety, those are basically the same thing, but they're different from fear. So fear happens when we are in a situation where we think a threat is imminent. It's right there. That whatever it is that could hurt us is right in front of us and we need to deal with it. That's where fear comes. Anxiety and nervousness comes from imagining that situation. It comes from, okay, well, what might happen in the future? What could happen to me in this circumstance? That's where nervousness and anxiety start to live. So it's important to understand that when we start talking about, are we talking about fear or are we talking about anxiety? Because fear has to do with how am I perceiving this situation right in front of me? How am I understanding it? And I mean, am I understanding it in as good a way as I can be? That's fear. And this is not to say that fear is a bad thing. Because, and I get this all the time too. Oh, you're a stuntman, so you must not be afraid of anything. No, I'm afraid of things, just not too much. It's not. It's just the right. It's the Goldilocks fear that you got to walk that line of enough fear to keep you safe, but not enough fear to prevent you from taking risks. And that's where fear lives. So it's about how we're thinking about and perceiving the situation and what level of risk we are assigning to whatever we're saying is a threat. So for you, for example, if you're walking down the street and there's a dog in the yard next to you, you're probably perceiving that situation very well. There's a dog. You perceive that dog as a threat. So as a result, you experience fear. That's completely normal and natural. If you think something's a threat, you're going to experience fear. The question becomes, how realistic is that perception? And how maybe accurate is that assessment of risk? So if it's just a little poodle that's on a chain that can't even reach you and you're freaking out, then maybe the assessment of risk is too high. And so, we just recognize that, oh, okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, yeah, I'm putting the risk at a 9, but clearly it's at a 1, so that can help me back it up. So it's about questioning the veracity, the truth of how we're seeing the situation. And even if we're seeing it accurately, you're walking past, there's a dog in the yard, so there is some level of risk that's there. Are we accurately assessing that risk?
okay? Okay. Now you have some programs designed, Pressure X and Phase X. Please walk me through how these are not traditional performance program. I mean, coaching.
Yeah, well, there are four actually. There's Phase X, which also goes by the name of Flow Under Fire when I do keynote speaking or workshops or things like that. I do have stress X and then phase X, and I also have drive X. Drive X is about the motivation and burnout. Stress X is about stress. Pressure X, flow under fire, is about pressure. And phase X is about a four-phased approach to performance that was developed while I was working with the Army, but we've expanded it out to athletes, to performing artists, to corporate people. I mean, it's been used in a lot of areas at this point now. And really all that is the idea that sometimes when we're in performance situations, particularly high stakes ones, we can feel overwhelmed. There's just so much happening all at once. We're not really sure where we're supposed to be or how we're supposed to be. We know it really matters that whatever we're doing is pushing us in the right direction. And so what Phase X does is help us break down that performance into phases. The before, the right before, the during, and the after. Meaning, what is my preparation physically, mentally, emotionally, socially? That's the before. Right before, how am I transitioning from my before state to my performance state physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially? What changes am I making? How am I hitting? It's like a soundboard, or a light board where there are certain levels that have to be there in order for everything to go right. It's about calibrating those for whatever our performance is: physical, mental, emotional, social. Where are we putting those sliders to make things work for ourselves? And then afterward, how do we review what happened in a way that we can learn from it and we can recover at the same time? So we've just expended energy. How do we get it back? So the pressure and the stress programs are around defining those things, distinguishing them from each other, helping people understand where they come from, how they start, and then providing them with some strategies to implement the facts with both stress and pressure and in their own unique situations.
Okay. Now you got some titles to your name. You're a podcaster, Flow Under Fire, and you're a professor at Grand Canyon University. Having multiple titles and disciplines and everything that you do, what is the most rewarding discipline that you have thus far in this whole circle of everything that you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you talk professionally, then yeah, I started as a stuntman. I've worked as a sport and performance psychology consultant. I currently do that. Well, I do all of it. I still do stunts. I have some shows that are coming out here pretty soon. I don't know what the next one I'll be working on is, but I still do that. I still do the sport and performance psychology stuff. Obviously, that's my main thing. I also am a faculty member at Grand Canyon University. So yeah, I've written books, I do podcasts, and I'm a dad, and I've been a foster parent. So there have been a lot of things. And I'll tell you, I'll end this the way that we started it by just saying the thing that's most rewarding is when I was finally over this past, say, 9 months to a year, able to coalesce those various things, to bring the academic into the stunts, into the practical experience with the military, and even the parenting experience, particularly with the foster kids, because they're a handful. Bringing all of that together in a way that allows me to operate and to really provide some experiential and just some knowledge based guidance in the high stakes performance arena, because it's one that is an exciting one to be in, and I love working with people who operate in those situations where they're getting it wrong is it matters. It matters.
Okay. Now, on this show right here, we pay homage to a news magazine that as a kid on Friday nights it came on right after TGI Friday went off, came on the ABC network. It had John Stossel as comic relief, Elizabeth Vargas and Diane Sawyer were on it also. They were interviewers that were very poignant. But it had this amazing lady on there, the late, great Barbara Walters, and that news magazine is called 2020. Brian, are you ready for your 2020 questions?
Sure.
All right. So here's your fun one. This is your John Stossel one. When you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you indulge in?
Coffee with a lot of cream, although it's sugar-free cream, but my wife tells me that that's going to kill me anyway. So
All right, so how many cups of coffee do you drink before 12 o'clock?
two.
Okay, so you're modest, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the first part of pollution you put in your body? Now, let me give you an example of pollution. What I used to do when I was working in another part of corporate America, I would have an hour long lunch. So I would find like an old TV show like In the Heat of the Night or something like that, Mama's Family, something that I used to watch with my grandmother. even though I know that it was just a memory that would bring her up to me, but that was pollution I was putting in my body, that comedy and that stuff. And it put a smile on my face and it would get me through the next 4 or 5 hours worth of work. And I'd be like, man, what would my grandma do in this situation? She would just tell him be quiet or something like that, you know. But just knowing that I had that connection from that show that we used to watch when I was a kid, that's the pollution I like to put in me, which is good pollution to me, but it's still pollution because I'm watching TV when I should be doing other things, reading a book or something. But that's the pollution I put in my body in the middle of the day. So what type of pollution do you put in your body?
Well, the first pollution that goes into my body like that is it's unpredictable because I I as the coffee is being made, I wear an aura ring, so I look at the sleep data and physical data and stuff from the day before. So I look at that. I don't consider that pollution, but once that's done, then I turn on I click on the New York Times app and I start reading that, and I gotta tell you. It's hard to tell sometimes which of those articles I would call pollution and which ones are truly helpful. God love all the people writing them. I know they got the best things at their heart, but I would say that it's inevitable that every morning that at least part of that is going to be some pollution that I end up with.
All right, and let me tell you something. You couldn't see it because you were talking, but when you started talking about the New York Times, you did a different smile that you didn't do through the whole show, and that's the John Stossel part right there. You smiled because you really thought about it. Hey, I do put pollution in my body at some point, and
Yeah.
and it's a fun thing. When we say pollution, we think negatively of it, but we find some type of positivity from it. So thank you for that. Now here goes your Elizabeth Vargas question. Success. I measured success like this. Success, every failure I had the day before, not correcting it, not doing anything, but learning from the failure. That's success to me because we can have superlatives all day for doing something good. We learned that as a kid. But really knowing that I failed at something and there was a lesson learned at the end that I can keep something tangible sometimes not tangible, that's success to me because you can't be perfect. And if you know that there are certain things and you can see your flaws and all and handle that, that's success to me. When you can't handle your flaws and all, that's not successful to me. Now, what's your branding of success?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's typically the first one I explore with clients too. I mean, right out of the gate, how are you defining success? Because most of the time they'll pick things that they don't have a whole lot of control over. For athletes, for example, they might say, "Well, I want to place in this competition, or I want to end up on the podium at this meet." All right. Well, you're only one of however many people, so you're not in control of whether you end up on that podium or not. All you're in control of is how well you do in that situation, those actions that you can take that create conditions for the outcomes you want to occur. So you got to identify what that is. So let's talk about success in terms of those things that you can do. And that's how I try to conceptualize success and operationalize it in my life, meaning I think about conceptually success as making progress at things that I think are important that I have some control over. And then I operationalize that, meaning how do I know whether I did it or I didn't out in the world by just physical, mental, emotional, social. What are some physical things that I did today that moved me a little closer to success? Did I exercise? Did I eat fairly well? Did I get enough sleep? Did I stretch? What did I do mentally? Did I do something that moved me a little bit closer? Did I recognize when I was distracted a little bit faster than I did yesterday? Did I recognize when my thinking was counterproductive and turn it around? Did I recognize when I was just paying attention to the wrong thing and I needed to shift because I was not gaining what I needed to? So mentally, did I make some progress in that area? Did I do some things that move me forward? Emotionally, how well was I able to regulate? How well was I able to adopt and sustain emotional states that allowed me to connect with other people, which brings me to the social part. Did I connect with other people? How well did I talk to anybody? Did I reconnect with a friend? Did I communicate well? Or was I distracted? Was I staring at my phone? Was I saying, oh, can you repeat, like what, all this stuff. So that's how I measure success is just in terms of did I move myself forward in any kind of way with regard to the things that I can control? And the way that I break that down is by physical, mental, emotional, and social.
Okay, I like that. Now, on to your Diane Sawyer question. Performance psychology. I need you right now to debunk a myth about performance psychology.
That it's only about mental stuff. And that's, I mean, that's, it can't be. We're human beings. This is why I bring up physical, mental, emotional, social. That's why I harp on it so much. Because if I haven't gotten enough sleep or I haven't eaten, and my daughter will attest to that too, man, if I haven't eaten, my mood is going to change. My emotional volatility is going to change. What my attention focuses on is going to change. So my mental and emotional states, as well as my social state, she doesn't want to be around me when I'm hungry. So all of these different things are all connected in ways that are inseparable from each other. So when we talk about performance psychology, it is about psychology, the mind, how we're thinking, where we're focusing, and all of that. But we can't fixate on that to the exclusion of the other parts of us as humans that allow us to be at our best. And we can't ignore the fact that if our mind isn't quite working the way that we want it to, that the reason for that may not be our mind. It might be our body. It could be some sort of social interaction and ways that we're thinking about that. I mean, it could be any number of things. So we have to be open to the fact that performance psychology is more than just mental states.
Okay, okay, I like that. Now, this is your Barbara Walters question, and this is a great question. This question is really hard. I put a glass of water on the table. It's half full to some, it's half empty to others. Brian puts a glass that's half empty, half full on the table. What is that glass?
No, it depends on the day. There are some times I'll argue it's mostly empty. And then there are some other times I'm like, what, man, there's hardly any air in that thing. It really does, it depends. I tend to be more optimistic, and it's weird. I tend in most situations to be more optimistic in general that things are going to work out okay, I guess. But there's a pessimistic streak that lurks not that far underneath. And again, like I said, with the resources, if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, if I'm in a bad mood, if my mind is just worn out, then the pessimism breaks through more often. That's seems to be the more natural state. But I'll tell you, over however many years of being aware of that kind of stuff and tuning into it, it almost adjusts automatically now. I recognize very, very quickly when I'm in a pessimistic state and I'm able to shift it. I'm able to examine the situation. I have a few different strategies for that, but I'll use one or all of them to try to turn that perspective around. So I depends on what day you ask, what
Uh,
day and time, and every other state that I'm in as to what I'll say.
And I thank you very much for coming on the show, and I thank you for being part of the 2020 questions. There's something about them; they just make you more personable. And that half glass, that half empty, half full glass thing is something I ask everybody because I've had some people go blank. One guy, he had technical difficulties, and it just like everything went off the screen. So thank you for participating in that because some of those questions are hard hitting, and I hope that they've opened you up to the audience a little bit more. Now, one thing I forgot to do on here is we like to do a lot of nostalgic things from the original show, West Virginia Uncommonplace, but we have one thing called the shameless plug. And you know what a shameless plug is. So I need you to do that right now so the audience will know where to meet and greet you across the internet and wherever you want them to meet you.
Okay, yeah, Brian Hite Global, BrianHite Global, GLOBAL.com. BrianHiteGlobal.com. That's the website. And that's where you can find pretty much anything you want. You'll find information about me, you'll find information about the programs, you'll find a way to contact me. I mean, you can just send me an email at brian@brianhiteglobal.com, or you can even schedule a discovery call from the website. But I'll tell you, if pressure and stress and that sense of overwhelm or burnout are things that you struggle with and you don't have anybody to really walk you through step by step how to handle that and to manage it and to shift to a different way, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you. I've been there. I understand it. And I love helping people because it's a rough place to be. So that's it.
And on that note, we're both signing out of here. We're going to let that British lady do that outro.